It is the home stretch of the high school basketball season. We'll wrap things up this weekend, state championship weekend. And for the boys, it's out to Binghamton, but there's only one boys team is heading out that way from Section 2. We had 9 teams last week with, between the boys and girls, chances to win, in advance to win, and we have 3 left. 2 on the girls' side and then 1 on the boys' side. The Lake George Warriors are heading out there for a game today against North Star Christian Academy, 1:45. That's the 2-seed Lake George against the 5-seed in a semifinal game. And we will be all over that, highlights and post-game reaction tonight on News Channel 13 Live at 6. And then the girls, traditionally, are at Hudson Valley Community College, and that has not changed. Shenendehowa the 2 against the 11 Baldwin at 6:15 tonight at HVCC. Big game. James Allen from the Times-Union joins us. He'll be covering that game and following Shen and McKeel Christian also on the girls' side this weekend. Good morning, Big Game.
Morning, Roger.
How are you today, Big Game?
I'm doing good.
Do you have some energy to get through the weekend?
Absolutely.
All right. I know it's a long haul. I looked at the UAlbany game notes last night, and I think it said game number 35. So it's a long haul, right? You start the basketball season, it's a long haul. It does go by quickly, but for me with UA, it's a long haul. High school-wise, stretch run. Let's talk Shen, because that's game you're going to be covering at 6:15 tonight. They've got Baldwin. What are the chances of them winning and advancing?
Well, Roger, they come in as the underdog. Baldwin's ranked number 3 in the state. Shen's in the top 10, but they've been, sort of like hovering in that, low single-digit high, or like around 11, 9. They're 9 now. Baldwin's a pretty dynamic team. They got 2 really good scorers. Anissa Hudson's averaging over 20. She scored her 1,000 point in December. She's got about 1,350 points for her career. She's a really good player. And they have this other player who's really kind of an interesting matchup. She's just kind of a blur, too. And she's averaging almost 17 and a half. Her name is Jenna Anichirico. It's a very hard name to say. It's about 15 letters. They're going to have their hands full. It's going to be incumbent upon them. This is a team that likes to push the pace. They were in a very close game for about 3 quarters in their regional final against Central Islip, and then they went on a 25-1 run to kind of put that game away. And they've got a little bit more experience in this spot than Shen does. But as Cam Tooley said, look, at this point, we've sort of embraced the underdog role because we don't really have any senior starters, or we weren't really expected to be here after being in the state final last year. So, I think we play better when we're thinking we're the underdog and we got nothing to lose and no expectations, and they got to play that way tonight if they're going to win this game. I'm not saying they can't, but I definitely think Baldwin comes into this contest as the favorite, and Shen's going to have to play even better than they did the last few games that they did to win the sectionals and then to win the regional game last week out at OCC against West Genesee. So
Tooley and Tudor, top 2 players for Shen, will have to play big, and they'll need some help.
They'll need some help, and I think the other players can definitely do it. I think you're going to see you're going to have performances like they had. Meg Galuli had a really strong performance against West Genesee with 13 points. They're going to need Kat Almeida to do some damage inside, and Simone Walker's really good on some nice push off the bench as a freshman, and they're going to need that as well. It's just going to be, kind of what they've been doing all year. I mean, obviously Tudor and Tooley have been the focal points of the offense. They're both their top leading scorers, but they also, have some other players that are capable, and it's going to take everybody if they're going to win this game.
All right, let's stay on the girls' side here. That's a semifinal, right? Semifinal at 6:15.
Yep.
And then the other high school girls basketball team that is still dribbling the ball is McKeel Christian Academy, and they play Watkins Glen tomorrow at 12:30 at Hudson Valley Community College. What's that matchup like?
A very interesting matchup. I think it's kind of a toss-up game going in. McKeel has a three-headed monster that's been dynamic all year long, and the two juniors, Rebecca Dean and Liz Singleton, are both four-year varsity players, and then Jessie Shaw, who's her and her sister Madison came to the school last year, moving in from Pennsylvania, and the three of them combined they're averaging very almost 48 points a game, and they only score 56, so they're doing most of the damage. And they've taken turns being the leading scorers. And Singleton's very difficult to contain. She's very fast. A track kid who's really figured out. She's always been able to get up and down the court, but she's really done a better job of distributing the ball and finishing around the basket. Dean's just an all-around matchup problem because she's a post player, but she can also shoot the three. Those three that I just mentioned combined have 138 threes, and as a team they only have 147. So again, they do not only most of the scoring damage, but they do also do most of the scoring damage from the outside as well. Watkins Glen has a couple really good players. Their top player averaging 17.5 points a game. Very similar to Dean in terms of she can score inside, but she's also capable of shooting from the outside. And for McKeel Rogers, the biggest thing is for them is just, they don't really play. They don't go too far down the bench. They got to keep their players on the floor. They've been able to do that throughout the year. And they're riding a 24-game winning streak. They lost their opener against Class A Gloversville, and since then they won them all. And I think they have a very good shot. It's going to be interesting, but I think having a good home crowd fan base to be there for them, I think will help them. Not going to be easy, but I think they've got a legit shot to get to the finals.
We're tied with Big Game James Allen. We do every Friday. It's a little high school sports segment as the basketball season is in the stretch run with the three area teams trying to win state championships this weekend. Today, we'll have a crew out in Binghamton. Hard to get used to saying that, Binghamton, for the boys as opposed to the Glens Falls Civic Center. But Binghamton is the site. Big game. You've got Lake George against North Star Christian Academy at 1:45 today. What's the chances of Lake George winning a couple of games this weekend? Or how about the first thing they got to do is win today?
I think they can win this game, Roger. It's interesting because they're up to the number 2 state ranking, and they were ranked earlier in the state. They were ranked in the top 10. Then they had they lost a couple of games against Granville, who Granville won the Adirondack League regular season title, and then they beat them in the league tournament, and then they beat them in the sectional semifinals, and they beat the 1 and 2 seeds as the 4 seed to win the sectionals. But this is a team. It's kind of interesting because they won the state title in 13 and 15, but those teams were very dominated by Joe Winkowski. Not that they didn't have other good players. In 13, they had his brother on the team, and they had other scorers, and then 15, he was much more the dynamic scoring leader. This is a more balanced team, but they have really a starting 5 that can do damage. Any of them can get a go for double digits, and there's been many games this year where they've had 4 guys go double digits. And I think what we've seen in recent years is any team that gets out of our area in Class C to get to the state tournament has a legit shot to win it all because it's such a proving ground to get out of our area in Class C, allow those teams to play against larger competition during the regular season and do well. And when they get to the state level, they're not awed by anything. The interesting, obviously, element this time is, unlike the last few times, the Lake George is basically a few miles away from their school playing at the Civic Center. They're have to do it in Binghamton this time. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. But they're not a senior-laden team. Their top few players are younger players. They're juniors and sophomores, and really been impressed with their inside tandem with Caleb Scream and I think when he goes and when Mason Flatley, who's a sophomore, when those two are working well together, they're very tough to deal with, and they're riding high right now. North Star Christian's a very good team. They've been a very good team for quite a while. They've been a perennial state-ranked team. kind of the way Lake George has been in recent years, and I think it's a very good matchup, very even matchup, and we'll see how it plays out this afternoon.
You got it. Good luck to Lake George. Good luck to the Shen girls. Good luck to McKeel Christian girls. See how many state championships out of those three teams are won when the weekend is over. Big game, always a pleasure on the Friday show, my man.
Sounds good, Roger.
Have a great weekend, Big Game.